The first time he pointed his camera at me, I wanted to punch him. The second time, I wanted him to never stop. College dorms in New York are noisy, chaotic, and painfully unglamorous. Yet somehow, fate or some twisted housing algorithm dropped me into room 312 with Ethan Reyes, a photography major who walked around like every hallway was his personal runway. He had that dangerous kind of charisma, the sort you couldn't buy, couldn't fake, couldn't even look away from. And me? I was the quiet one. A scholarship kid from Ohio, the kind of guy people didn't notice until they needed homework help. But Ethan noticed. Oh, he noticed everything. The first week of the semester, he caught me sitting at my desk, scribbling half-dead notes for Intro to Literature. He leaned against the doorframe, lifted his camera, and clicked. No warning, no "Hey, do you mind?" Just flash. My scowl is probably immortalized somewhere on his hard drive. "What the hell, man?" I snapped, shielding my face. He only smirked. "Don't worry. You looked real. Like I was some kind of subject worth studying, like I wasn't just another boring freshman trying to stay afloat." I hated the way my stomach flipped at that word. By the second week, the walls between us were already crumbling. Ethan was magnetic in a way that felt unfair, loud laughter that shook the thin dorm walls, messy curls that caught the sun, and this way of leaning in close when he talked, like you were the only person in the world. He was chaos in jeans and boots, and I was the order that resented him for it. Or maybe envied it. Then came the blackout. It was late September, one of those sticky nights where the air conditioner clattered and failed under the strain of too many restless bodies. At exactly 10:47 p.m., the lights went out across campus. The hum of electricity died, replaced by a blanket of silence and the chorus of confused voices in the hall. Ethan lit a candle. Just one. A stub of wax he dug out of his camera bag, like he'd been waiting for this exact cinematic moment. The flame flickered against his sharp jawline, turning shadows into poetry. I pretended not to stare. He didn't bother pretending at all. "You're freaking out," he said casually, tossing himself onto his bed, one hand behind his head like some kind of Renaissance painting. "I'm not," I lied, sitting stiffly at my desk. I hated the dark. Too many memories of Ohio storms and powerless nights. Too many ghosts that crept in when the lights shut off. "You are," he pressed softer now, his eyes catching mine across the room. "But it's okay. I'll keep you distracted." I scoffed, but my chest tightened. Distracted? That was exactly what he'd been since day one. A distraction I couldn't shake. And then, as if the universe had been waiting for him to say it, thunder rolled in the distance. The candlelight wavered, shadows danced across the room, and the walls between us felt thinner than ever. Ethan reached for his camera. "Let me take your picture." "No, yes. It's dark. You won't even get anything. That's the point." He lifted the lens, voice low, almost daring. "It's not about clarity. It's about truth." And for reasons I still can't explain, I didn't move when the shutter clicked. The silence after was unbearable. My pulse was too loud in my ears. His eyes lingered on me in a way that felt less like observation and more like possession. That was the night everything began to unravel. Living with Ethan was a slow kind of torture, the kind that chipped away at you every day. He'd stumble in at 2 a.m. after late shoots, smelling like rain and cigarettes, dropping his jacket on my chair like it was his closet. He'd sprawl across his bed, humming some song I didn't know, camera still hanging from his neck. And then, sometimes he'd glance at Miralai glance and it felt like my entire world tilted. It wasn't fair. He made things look easy. He flirted with people at coffee shops, laughed too loudly in lecture halls, made professors bend rules for him just by flashing that reckless grin. And me? I couldn't even meet his eyes for too long without feeling like I'd combust. But the blackout night lingered. It hung between us like smoke. I caught him watching me more often. His lens found me even when I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes I'd wake up to the faint sound of a shutter, and I'd wonder if he was capturing me in dreams I never consented to. And then one night, when the city outside was wrapped in rain, he said it out loud. "You know I like you, right?" Just like that. No warning. He didn't even look up from cleaning his lens. My pen froze mid-sentence. What? I said. He repeated calmly. I like you, and judging by the way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention, I think you like me too. My throat closed. The walls felt too small, the candlelight too bright, the storm outside too loud. I wanted to deny it, to laugh, to brush it off. But my body betrayed me, heat rising in my cheeks, my heart slamming against my ribs, my breath coming faster. He looked up then, finally, eyes steady, unflinching. Tell me I'm wrong. Couldn't. And that was the problem. Those weeks that followed were a war I fought inside myself. On one side, the world I had built, rules, control, the desperate need to be invisible, to keep my head down and earn my scholarship. On the other side, Ethan, reckless and unyielding, tugging me into a world where rules didn't matter, where truth was messy but alive. We grew closer, too close. He'd brush against me in the kitchen, his hand lingering a second too long. He'd flop onto my bed with some excuse about better lighting, stretching out until his arm touched mine. He'd catch my gaze across the library and smirk like we shared a secret no one else could touch. And yet, fear clung to me. Fear of what people would say. Fear of what my family back home would think. Fear that Ethan was playing a game, that his camera was just another mask, that I was just another photograph to him. But every night, when the lights went out, and it was just us in that cramped little room, the walls of fear cracked a little more. And I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, falling into his chaos wasn't the worst thing that could happen. That's when the real story began. It's strange how quickly a secret can become the loudest thing in a room. After Ethan's confession, even silence felt dangerous. Every glance, every pause, every accidental brush of skin carried weight. I tried to keep things normal, God. I tried, but once a line has been crossed, there's no uncrossing it. The problem was, Ethan didn't hide. He didn't even try. 2 days after that stormy night, he walked beside me on the way to class, his shoulder brushing mine like we'd been doing it for years. I felt the heat of eyes on other students, people we both knew. My instinct was to pull away, to put space between us, but Ethan only leaned in closer. You always walk like you're late to somewhere you don't want to go, he teased, camera dangling from his neck. And you walk like you own the sidewalk. I shot back. Maybe I do. He smirked. Or maybe I just like the view when I'm next to you. I almost tripped. He caught my arm, steadying me like it was the most natural thing in the world. My pulse thundered in my ears, but his grip was gentle, his thumb brushing against my sleeve before he let go. No one said anything, but I felt their stares. I hated how much I liked it. A week later, the first real crack appeared. We were in the dining hall, Ethan juggling a tray stacked with fries and burgers, talking too loudly about some photography assignment. I was trying to tune him out, head buried in my laptop, when one of his friends, Caleb, another art student, slid into the seat across from us. Hey, Reyes, Caleb grinned. Got any new shots for the exhibit? Ethan shrugged, chewing. Working on it. Might even submit something personal. Caleb raised a brow. Personal, huh? Like your mysterious roommate. I froze. My eyes darted up from the screen. Ethan laughed, careless, but there was a glint in his gaze. Maybe. Caleb's smirk widened. Yeah, I've seen the way you look at him. Careful, man. You're gonna scare him off. My stomach dropped. The table seemed to shrink, the noise of the hall rushing in too close. I slammed my laptop shut. I've got class, I muttered, bolting before Ethan could stop me. I didn't care where I went, I just needed air. That night, Ethan found me sitting on the dorm rooftop, staring at the city lights. You disappeared, he said, climbing over the ledge with annoying grace. You embarrassed me. My voice was sharper than I meant, but I didn't take it back. He sat beside me, close but not touching. I wasn't trying to. Caleb's an idiot. He's not wrong. I bit my lip hard. People notice, Ethan. They're going to talk. And I can't. I cut myself off before the words tumbled too far. Ethan turned to me, serious now. You can't what? I stared at the skyline, the neon bleeding into the night. I can't afford to screw this up. Not here. Not with my scholarship. Not with my family back home breathing down my neck. If people start saying things. His silence stretched. For once, Ethan Reyes didn't have a clever comeback. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer. So what, you want me to stop? Pretend I don't feel this? Yes, I whispered, but the word cracked in my throat. He stood, running a hand through his hair. You don't mean that. Ethan. No, he shook his head, pacing. You think I'm reckless, but I know exactly what I'm doing. And I know you feel it too. You're just scared. He wasn't wrong. But fear has a way of digging in its claws and refusing to let go. I can't, I said again, weaker this time. The look he gave me before leaving that roof was something I'll never forget, hurt wrapped in anger. Like a door slamming shut. For days, the air between us was thick with unspoken words. He stopped taking random photos of me. Stopped leaning close when he talked. Stopped laughing in that careless way that filled the whole room. And I hated it. But pride fear kept me frozen. Then came the night of the gallery. The campus gallery show was Ethan's world, not mine. He'd been buzzing for weeks, stringing prints on wires, editing until dawn. I tried to ignore it, tried to bury myself in coursework, but curiosity won. I showed up late, slipping into the crowd, hoping he wouldn't notice me. The room glowed with soft lights, walls lined with photographs. Landscapes, portraits, city shots. And then my breath caught. There I was, not posed, not smiling, just sitting at my desk, eyes half-shadowed by candlelight, the blackout night burning quietly behind me. The caption read, "Truth in Darkness." People murmured, admiring. Some asked who the subject was. Ethan only smiled mysteriously, deflecting. But he knew I was there. His eyes found me across the room, steady, unwavering, and I couldn't breathe. I left before he could reach me. He cornered me later, back at the dorm. You had no right, I snapped before he could speak. No right? His voice cracked with disbelief. That's me. That's us. That's the realest thing I've ever captured. You didn't ask. Would you have said yes? Silence. Because we both knew the answer. Ethan stepped closer, anger giving way to desperation. You keep running like this is something to be ashamed of. But I'm not ashamed. Not of you. Not of what I feel. I backed against the wall, his presence overwhelming. You don't get it, Ethan. My family, if they knew, he cut me off, eyes fierce. So you'll let fear write your story? You'll let other people decide what you're allowed to feel? My chest ached. Tears pricked my eyes. Uninvited. It's not that simple. It is. His hand hovered near mine, trembling. It is if you let it be. The distance between us felt unbearable. One step and everything would change. One step, and I'd either lose myself or finally find the part of me I'd been burying. But I couldn't move. Not yet. The weeks that followed were torture. He stopped fighting, stopped pushing. We lived like strangers who knew too much about each other. His laughter faded from our room. His camera, once a constant presence, gathered dust. And I realized something terrifying. I missed him. Not just the noise, the chaos. I missed Ethan. His light, his fire, the way he made me feel seen. But by the time I admitted it, it might have been too late. Because Ethan had stopped waiting. The storm came back one October night. A brutal reminder of that blackout weeks ago. Rain pounded the windows. Thunder rattled the walls. I sat at my desk, staring blankly at my untouched homework, when Ethan's phone buzzed. He didn't answer. He just grabbed his jacket, heading for the door. Where are you going? I asked before I could stop myself. A shoot, he muttered. In this weather? He paused, finally looking at me. His eyes were tired, guarded. Don't worry about it. And then he was gone. The silence left behind was suffocating. For the first time, I realized what it felt like to lose him, and that, more than fear, broke me. Hours passed. The storm raged. Midnight crept in, and still no Ethan. I sat on his bed, staring at the camera he'd left behind, the one that had captured me more honestly than I'd ever allowed myself to be. And I knew, If I didn't fight for Thisif, I didn't fight for him, I'd regret it forever. So I grabbed my jacket, bracing myself for the storm, and I went to find him. The city was drowning under rain when I stepped outside. My hoodie clung to my skin, the wind cutting through me like knives. I had no idea where Ethan might have gone, only that he always chased storms like they were muses whispering secrets only he could hear. The streets were half empty, slick with water reflecting red traffic lights and ghostly neon. I pushed through, shoes squelching, eyes scanning every corner. My heart wasn't just beating, it was pounding with one realization over and over again. I couldn't lose him. By the time I found him, he was standing under a broken streetlight, drenched, camera lifted toward the storm. He looked wild and unearthly, hair plastered to his forehead, his shirt clinging to his frame. Lightning lit him up in flashes, and for a second he wasn't just Ethan. Ryesh was something bigger, untouchable. "Are you insane?" I shouted, my voice ripping through the storm. He turned, startled, lowering the camera. "What the hell are you doing out here?" "What am I doing? What are you doing?" I stumbled forward, chest heaving. "It's pouring. It's dangerous. You could relax." He cut me off, half a smile tugging at his lips despite the water streaming down his face. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." My voice cracked, louder than I intended. "You're out here because of me, aren't you? Because I pushed you away. Because I was too scared to." The words tangled in my throat, but the storm didn't care. Thunder swallowed my hesitation. Ethan stared at me, eyes unreadable. "Say it." My chest burned. The rain soaked through to my bones. And for the first time, I didn't care who heard, didn't care what the world thought. "I like you, Ethan." The words tore out of me like a confession I'd been holding in for years. "I'm terrified and confused and completely out of my depth. But I like you, more than I've ever liked anyone. And I hate how much power you have over me, but I can't lose you." The silence that followed felt endless, broken only by rain hammering the pavement. And then he was in front of me, so close I could see the storm reflected in his eyes. His hands slid up, cupping my face with a tenderness that unraveled every wall I'd built. "You finally said it," he whispered. And before I could answer, his lips were on mine. The kiss was nothing like I imagined. It wasn't cinematic or perfect. It was wet and messy, tasting of rain and fear and relief. But it was real. God, it was real. My hands clutched at his soaked jacket as if to anchor myself, afraid he'd vanish if I let go. He kissed me like he'd been waiting for this moment all his life, fierce and unyielding, yet unbearably gentle. When we finally broke apart, gasping, the storm still roared, but it no longer felt threatening. It felt like background music to something I never thought I'd have. Ethan grinned, breathless. "Told you the storm could be beautiful." I laughed, shaking my head, half in disbelief. "You're ridiculous. You love it," he teased, brushing a wet strand of hair from my forehead. And maybe, for the first time, I did. The walk back was quieter. He held my hand openly, not caring about the few stragglers we passed. My pulse raced every time someone glanced our way, but Ethan squeezed my hand, steadying me. For once, I didn't pull away. Back in the dorm, dripping and shivering, we collapsed onto his bed, still tangled together. The world outside was chaos, but inside, everything was startlingly calm. "Do you regret it?" he asked after a while, voice low, vulnerable. I turned to face him, his curls stuck to his forehead, his eyes searching mine like the answer could either save him or break him. "No," I said honestly. "I regret waiting this long." His smile was small but radiant, and in that moment, I knew whatever storms came next, I wanted to weather them with him. Of course, nothing worth having comes without consequences. The very next morning, word was already spreading. Someone had seen us, hand in hand, in the rain. By lunch, whispers followed me across campus. By evening, a message from my sister lit up my phone. "Is it true?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't told my family, hadn't planned to. They were conservative, small-town people who believed in normal. I wasn't ready to fight that battle. Ethan noticed my silence, the way I clenched my jaw staring at the screen. "Talk to me," he urged. I shook my head. "I can't. Not now. Don't shut me out." His voice was firm, but his eyes betrayed worry. "We're in this together, remember? I don't know if we are," I snapped, instantly regretting it when hurt flickered across his face. "Really?" he said quietly. "After everything last night?" I wanted to take it back. Wanted to tell him I didn't mean it, but fear had its claws in me again. So I stayed silent. The days that followed were suffocating. The whispers didn't stop. Some people were kind, curious, even supportive. Others weren't. A few muttered slurs as I walked past. My scholarship advisor called me in, reminding me not to get distracted from academics. But worst of all was the call from home. My mother's voice, sharp and trembling. "Tell me it isn't true. Tell me you're not like that." I opened my mouth, but no words came. When I hung up, my hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Ethan found me hours later, curled on my bed, staring at nothing. He didn't say anything at first, just sat beside me, his presence steady. Finally, he spoke. "They don't get to decide who you are. They're my family," I whispered. "And I'm not," he countered, hurt lacing his tone. I looked at him then, really looked. The boy who'd cracked me open, who'd made me feel seen, who'd kissed me in the storm like the world was ending, and I realized was family. Maybe not the one I was born into, but the one I was choosing. "I'm scared," I admitted, voice breaking. He reached for my hand, threading our fingers together. "So am I. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." The truth of it settled deep in my chest. Maybe that was what love was, not the absence of fear, but the decision to face it anyway. Still, fear has a way of fighting back. The gallery posted Ethan's photo of Me Truth in Darkness in their website as part of their featured exhibit. Within hours, comments flooded in. Some praised it, some tore it apart. My face, my vulnerability was now public property. And I snapped. "You should have told me," I yelled, slamming the dorm door. "I thought you'd be proud." Ethan shot back, his own temper flaring. "Proud? Everyone knows now. Do you have any idea what that means for me?" His eyes blazed. "Do you have any idea what it means for me that I love someone who keeps acting like I'm a mistake?" The words hit like a punch. "Don't," I whispered, but my voice shook. Ethan's chest rose and fell, heavy with anger and hurt. "I can't keep proving myself to you. Either you want this or you don't." And just like that, the storm inside us grew louder than the one outside. That night, he didn't come back to the dorm. His bed was empty. His camera was gone. And I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing I might have just destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. The dorm felt unbearably empty without Ethan. The mess he always left behind, jackets draped over my chair, memory cards scattered on the desk, his sneakers tossed under the wrong bed, was gone. The silence pressed on me like a weight, every tick of the clock reminding me of the words I had thrown at him. That he was a mistake, that I was ashamed. I hadn't meant them. God, I hadn't. But fear twists the truth until it comes out poisoned. By the third night, I cracked. His bed was still untouched. No texts, no calls. His Instagram, once a flood of snapshots, had gone dark. And I realized I had to find him or I'd lose him for good. The search took me across the city. I checked the art building, his favorite cafe, the little record store he loved downtown. Nothing. Finally, I wandered to the Riverside warehouse where he sometimes shot photos of graffiti. And there he was, camera in hand, hunched over, staring at nothing. His curls were a mess, his hoodie damp with mist. He looked tired in a way I'd never seen before, like the fire that made him Ethan Reyes had been dimmed. I stood frozen, watching him frame the skyline in his lens but never actually take the shot. "Ethan," I called, my voice breaking. He turned, eyes shadowed. "Why are you here?" "Because I miss you," I said, walking closer. "Because I can't breathe knowing you're out here, thinking I don't care. Because I was wrong." He shook his head, looking away. "You don't get to say that after everything." "I know." My throat ached. I know I hurt you. I let fear run my life, and I dragged you down with me. But I can't lose you. Not like this. Silence. Only the river and the hum of the city lights filled the space between us. I told you, Ethan said finally, his voice low. I can't keep proving myself to you. You don't have to, I whispered. Not anymore. Let me prove myself to you. I stepped closer, my chest shaking with the truth I had buried for too long. When I look at you, Ethan, I see everything I've ever wanted but was too afraid to reach for. You make me feel seen, alive, like I'm worth more than just grades and scholarships. I was terrified of what people would say, of what my family would think. But none of that matters if it means losing you. I want you, not in secret, not in shadows. You. For the first time in days, his eyes softened. You mean that? He asked, voice unsteady. I nodded, tears stinging hot against the cold air. I mean it. I love you, Ethan. The words felt foreign and familiar all at once, like I'd been rehearsing them every night in my head and finally set them free. Ethan's breath caught. He dropped the camera, letting it dangle against his chest, and closed the distance in 3 quick steps. His hands framed my face, and then his lips were on mine again, urgent, desperate, but this time unbroken by fear. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. You have no idea how long I've waited to hear you say that. Guess I'm late to the party? I laughed shakily, brushing a tear off my cheek. You're right on time, he whispered. The weeks that followed weren't magically easy. People still whispered. My scholarship advisor still eyed me with suspicion. My mother still hadn't called back. But something inside me had shifted. With Ethan at my side, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. He taught me how to see the world through his lens, how every shadow could be beautiful, every flaw worth capturing. I taught him how to slow down, to breathe between the chaos. We met in the middle, imperfect but whole. The night the power went out again weeks later, we didn't panic. We lit a candle, the same stub of wax from before, and sat shoulder to shoulder on his bed. Funny, he murmured, leaning into me. The first blackout changed everything. Think this one will too. Maybe, I said, kissing his temple. But this time, I'm not afraid of the dark. Months later, his photo of me, Truth in Darkness, won first prize at a citywide exhibit. When he pulled me up to the stage with him, I froze for half a second at the sea of faces. But then Ethan squeezed my hand, grounding me, and I knew. This was our story. Messy, terrifying, beautiful. And I wasn't hiding anymore. On the rooftop of our dorm, under the glow of a city that had once felt too big for me, I leaned against Ethan and let the night wrap around us. You know, he said, camera balanced on his knee, someday we'll look back at all this and laugh. Someday, I agreed, smiling into the wind. But not tonight. Tonight? He asked, turning to me. Tonight, I said softly. We just live. He kissed me again, and for once it didn't feel like a storm. Felt like home. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.